Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 18 of the Interviews Playlist. Our special guest for today is Nicole. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Nicole. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited for today.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning of your academic journey. What high school did you go to?
So I went to Marshall McLuhan, which is a Catholic school in Toronto. It's at Avenue and Eglinton, so it is kind of downtown core. I was kind of leaned towards that high school in particular because of the AP program. I wasn't that. I did do English and biology as well as French in AP. So I did write all my AP exams. I thought that the program was very interesting because it wasn't IB, which is usually for gifted students, but I thought that a place where I can elevate my academia in kind of pre-graduate and pre-undergrad would be a really good opportunity. So ultimately that school kind of led me towards there. And I felt that I learned a lot and I met a lot of amazing teachers and people. So I kind of leaned towards something that I could be a little bit specialized before I go to university. And I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. You seem to have a passion for languages, for learning languages. When did that passion start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my father is actually from Portugal, so I'm native Portuguese. I'm also native Italian because of my mother. So that's kind of something that I've always learned at home, my grandparents talking to them. It was something that I had to learn to break that language barrier. And so I loved the fact that these languages can kind of transport you into different cultures. I love different foods. I love different kind of traditions. And so from that, I learned that maybe I should look into French. So I also did study French for about 13 years. I did it all through elementary school, as most people do. And then I did continue my studies from grade 9 to grade 12 in high school. I did graduate my grade 8 with my French award, and then I did get my French as a second language in high school. I love French. I think that it's personally an amazing thing to continue all through high school. It's such an asset, especially when applying for jobs. Just having one, even three languages like I do, just creates such a sense of comfort when people come in and they don't necessarily speak English. They know that there's at least one person that maybe I'm not speaking the same dialect as them, but we can get along and I can definitely help them and make them feel safe in their environment. I remember a time at one of my previous jobs when I was working for an ophthalmologist, which is an eye surgeon. There was one lady who spoke Italian, and everyone in the clinic did not speak Italian. And I was the only person there that was able to kind of calm her down and let her know, okay, you're at the eye doctor. This is what we're doing. We're going to do this test. I need you to do this. And so giving her the instructions, I could just tell her anxiety went fully down the second I started talking to her. So that was a very heartwarming moment to know, like, wow, this is amazing. Something that my parents were so adamant about teaching me when I was small has actually helped me so much throughout my life, kind of stand out from everybody else and be that person who can really aid people who don't have an aid. So yeah, I really love languages. I think that this started when I was very, very young. I've always been interested in it. When I was younger, I'd have my dad speaking to me in Portuguese, my mom in English, and then maybe a halfway switch where my mom would then try to speak to me in Italian. My dad would speak to me in English. My parents are both bilingual, trilingual. So the languages run in the family, and I'm currently trying to learn a little bit of Arabic, a little bit. But I'm always open to new languages and especially Spanish. I love the food. I'm a huge foodie, so I think the language coming with the food, it's a really good learning experience.
Awesome. And how has your passion for languages helped you in like meeting new people, increasing your connections, and visiting new places as well?
Yeah, so I actually have traveled to Portugal maybe about I can't even know, at least twice a year since I was a baby. So I would say that's a lot. I'm almost 21. So I'd say definitely over 25 times. That I feel like kept me really close to my roots. And I'm extremely grateful and fortunate that my parents were able to actually allow the whole family to travel to Portugal all the time. But it was such an amazing experience because when you go there, obviously everyone speaks Portuguese, and I don't really necessarily look like someone that's from Portugal, just the way that I dress, the way that I talk, the way that I look. But I met so many amazing people to the point where just knowing the basics of the language, even if I wasn't amazing at it was just enough to like meet so many amazing friends, just ordering a coffee, ordering a sandwich at lunch. Like it's such a fun experience to be able to be in a new country and be scared, of course, because it's a new environment, but also know like, hey, I could say a couple words. I can get through a conversation. I can start, basic kind of banter with someone. So that was kind of my Portuguese side. I went to Italy in grade 11, actually, for a school course. It's called Centro Scuola. So what it is essentially is an opportunity for students to travel to Italy for 3.5 weeks. And you can learn a variety of courses. The course I did was Greek and Italian civilization. So it was like a history course. And essentially what happened was we study a couple weeks in Canada. And then from there, we all fly to Italy and we continue to go to school while we're in Italy, actually seeing the things that we're learning. So that was a surreal experience, to say the least, because you were literally talking about, the Ark and then seeing it the next day. And we were talking about the Colosseum and then going into the Colosseum. So you really get that tie between academia and real life and history and just how things have evolved so drastically over the years. And so the Italian point of that was a lot of the people there, surprisingly, didn't actually speak Italian. So we were all just, English people walking through the streets. But I was the one for most of my friends that was like, hey, can you ask them for this? Hey, can you ask them, what time it is? Hey, can you ask them if we can get that? And so, it's really nice because you feel like, oh, okay, I have a purpose. They need me here, right? So I loved that. That was amazing. And I think even just the experience of being in grade 11, so young, you're expanding your horizon so much at such a young age, to travel, to learning new things, to being in an uncomfortable new setting. You don't know the language. There's so many different barriers that you're able to kind of just be uncomfortable in. And ultimately, I think being in uncomfortable situations pushes you to grow. So you're already kind of growing so much in the span of one summer. So I highly recommend that course. So I did that. And then as well, even just meeting people at university, I've met a couple Brazilian Portuguese people at my university who I noticed had a little bit of an accent. And, I would talk to them and after I'd be like, oh, are you Portuguese? Or like, am I hearing a different accent? And they'd be like, yeah, actually, I am from Brazil. I'm from Portugal. And I'd be like, where? Oh my God, like this is crazy. And then only to find out that they only live 30 to 40 minutes away from me. And then that was just an immediate bond from, my grandmother and my childhood and my family home. So I feel like meeting people and having, even if you don't speak the language, but just saying, hey, yeah, I'm from Portugal as well, or I actually go often. Do you know this city or in this city, in this restaurant? It kind of just creates a sense of community before you even know anyone. Before the conversation started, I was already like, okay, I feel comfortable with this person. Like I'm so excited to get to know them and expand our relationship. So I feel like languages in general is just something that is so, so, so important. I can't even stress it enough. Meeting people in jobs, in academia, even just in everyday life, you never know when you'll come across or have an emergency situation where that person, God forbid, only speaks one language, and you can actually be the person to save their life or help them. So I think it's an amazing, amazing asset to all my relationships. And automatically, when I hear someone speaks a new language, I'm like, oh, let's talk, let's have a conversation. Teach me a few words. Like, even if it's a difficult language, like I love Arabic. I've always wanted to learn it. And now like I'm kind of immersed in it a little bit because some of my friends, and my family. So I'm like learning a few words here and there. But yeah, I love languages. I think that it's been a really, really, really big help in creating like meaningful relationships. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, those are really some nice perks of knowing multiple languages.
Mhm,
You also seem to have an entrepreneurial passion
mhm,
for, setting up businesses or just being in that business side.
mhm.
Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that I started was a digital content business called Wired Wellness. And essentially the premise of it is that the name itself is supposed to be wired wellness, as in we are always on our phones. We are always clicked in, we're always logged in, we're always signed in on our computers, on our phones, tablets, whatever. But the whole concept is that we're always on our phones, yet there are so many tools online and digitally that there is for us to actually help our self-care and help improve our wellness and help actually practice mindfulness. Yet it's kind of odd because a lot of people don't really use them, and the resources are there. It's not that the resources aren't there and that, it's kind of difficult to access them. There's many amazing apps, there's YouTube videos, there's meditation guides, there is online books. And I feel like some people may not know how accessible they actually are. So I wanted to create a space where I could unleash my creative side, because I have had a passion for painting and drawing for a very long time. And about 2 years from now, I was doing a lot of painting. And I found that during the pandemic, it was kind of something that I was able to just be creative, do whatever I like, and ultimately just kind of get that out of my system. And it felt really good after I was done. And so I've kind of lost my knack for it. I haven't painted in quite a long time because I think that painting should be very fluid and organic, and I shouldn't have to really force any artwork out of me. If I feel like I want to do it, I'll do it. It'll flow. And if not, take a break, and whenever it comes back, I'm obviously open to it. So that's how I am personally with painting. So I kind of just wanted to get that creative side out. And what I did is created a business, or even just not even really a business, but just a platform more so, as I do have an Instagram account too as well, where I share my products and I do share some quotes and I share some helpful tips, is that I wanted people to be able to log what is going on in their life. So I have self-care logs, I have fitness logs, I have things for gratitude, I have things for mindfulness, I have things for meditation, I have things that go with astrology. So it's kind of a whole wrapped around thing, that just because we are on our phones doesn't mean we need to disconnect from wellness. And there's so many studies that say that being a mindful person and being a well-rounded individual who practice meditation or does yoga or works out is linked to so much success. It's pretty much science. There's not really much to argue about that. But I think that it's just, if someone had something in front of them, they're more inclined to use it. So I wanted to create a platform where people could see, hey, I'm not really into writing down what I do in a day. Some people are, some people aren't. But this is something that is, let's say, 3 or 4 pages, and I could do this in the morning. I could take 5 minutes out of my day to write down, what did I enjoy about today? What did I learn about today? What's something exciting about today? And more times than none, when people actually try it, they're like, wow, that felt really good to just release it, and to just not keep it in our heads and not keep it as our thoughts, but just actually put it on paper. And once it's on paper, it's there. And I think that a big thing about people being anxious and stressed is that we store so much information in our heads and we never really let go of it. And that's because, number one, some people don't know how to, and number two, people don't know how to access that. So I feel like it's very crucial to create a space that is safe for people to know. And I've shared my personal journey about how I've kind of struggled with my self-care and how I've always kind of been an overachiever. I've always been in clubs and in sports and doing languages and with my friends and studying so hard that I've forgotten that half of doing well is being well, and that you can eat all the healthy juice and you can read all the amazing books, but if you in your heart and in your soul are not well and are stressed and are, very clenched, it's going to show, and you will crash, because everyone crashes at some point. And I did have a little bit of a pivotaling point in my university experience where I was just like, wow, I am very stressed, but I'm unhealthily stressed. It is not a pushing stress, it is more like a debilitating stress. So I was like, I want to create something that helps me as well. And I've used many of my products before I have released them. I have used them, I have trialed and errored them, I'd go over them and say, okay, would I do this? Is this something that I could see myself doing, maybe even at night, or even just in the day, or even just through my day? Will I grab my iPad and grab my pencil and start writing? And I found, yeah, actually, I would do this. So it's kind of for me and for others as well. And I feel like when people put out things that they are themselves proud about, and I also can picture myself using, it's much more relatable to the person that is, either the customer or just the person on the other end, that they know, okay, she uses this too. She recommends this too. It's not just me putting out a product to make money, because it's not about that. And it is a very small business, but I'm hoping that to kind of do some more analytics in the next couple months and find out, a little bit more of the demographic, the type of people that are viewing my page, and kind of scaling more to a select niche. But right now it's focused on self-care, self-love, gratitude, wellness, and just finding small things in the day to be grateful about, and to also recognize the bad in the day and think that, okay, I had this, this, and this happen to me. It wasn't the best, but what did I take from that? Because there's always a lesson to take from everything. So that was my first kind of endeavor. And then I would say my second thing that I just recently started was a UTM textbooks, which is a textbook secondhand page for University of Toronto, Mississauga students to grab textbooks that are more affordable for them. So the whole premise of the page is actually connecting students with students. I don't get any money. I don't get any reimbursement. It's obviously a non-for-profit organization. And essentially what it is that I wanted upper year students to be able to get rid of their textbooks, because I know me as now third year students, I have so many first year textbooks just sitting and taking up space in my office. And I wanted to create a space where I could post these textbooks and say, here's the condition of it. Here's a picture of it. I paid X amount of money and I'm willing to sell it for this amount of money. And then I'm just putting people's tags so that they can kind of discuss the further details with each other. I disclaimed that I'm not going to be involved in kind of the selling process, but I am just going to be a place where people could see, oh, I actually need that textbook. Oh, this one's actually required for January, or this one's actually required for next fall. And I think that the textbook situation, especially in university, is unfortunate to say the least. So many people come from overseas or international students, or even just domestic students, that do not have the funds to pay for enough textbooks. And so they have to pick and choose in terms of which textbooks they want. Sometimes not all of them are available online. And so it breaks my heart to know that some people go through courses without having adequate supplementals that actually help you succeed. Or so many times when professors say, you guys should be reading this page of the textbook, and knowing that there is people in the class that don't have that textbook. So they're missing out on so many, amazing additional supplemental materials and even pages that it's like their success is more determined by their economics and their financial status more than it is their intelligence. So I have started the page, and I have had a couple of people reach out to me and send me their textbooks, and some of them actually even just donate them and say, I just want to get rid of them. I don't care how much it is. I don't care if it's free. If anyone reaches out to me and is in need for this textbook, I'm more than willing to give it. So that is my second kind of ish entrepreneurship that I've done, but more just of an initiative that I wanted to create, because I feel like the school was missing that. And another important thing that my parents have always told me is that you need to be the change you want to see. So if I thought that was missing, I think that was kind of a calling upon me to start that initiative myself and actually make a point to be that person, so that if I ever needed also any textbook sold, I have a place that I created that I could easily just post it. So yeah, those are my two kind of side things that I have done that have kind of helped with my academia, my entrepreneurship, and my leadership. So I feel like all of these kind of combined make me a really well-rounded individual, to the point where I can have these businessy conversations, and I can have non-for-profit conversations, and I can also have academia conversations and resume build up and all that stuff. So those are the last couple of things I've done in the past year, but I'm definitely looking to kind of expand to a little bit more, find my direct niche, find what I love, and then stick to that, and ultimately hopefully grow it very large. So those are the plans for the next couple of months.
Fantastic. Yeah, those are really inspiring stories behind your entrepreneurial endeavors. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Are those your paintings at the back?
They are, yes.
Oh, awesome. Do
They
you wanna,
are.
yeah, do you wanna talk us through them? Like what inspired you to
Sure.
do them?
Okay, so this one I actually bought. So this one is a big one. This one is not mine. But I have done these two. There are a couple more in my room, but we'll just do these two. So interesting enough, this one was actually done in a painting class. So about a year, maybe 2 years ago, when my painting kind of interest sparked, my dad was telling me and my mom that we should take a painting class. And my mom was so opposed to it and was like, I'm not good at painting. I can't do it. Like, there is no way. And this was before I knew that I kind of had the hand for it. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I can't see myself enjoying it. It's such a slow process. It takes so long. We looked into the class. It was an 8-week program, so it was once a week for 8 weeks. And we were looking at all these pictures and we're thinking, there is no way we could do this. Like, there is no way we will be able to create such a beautiful piece in once a week classes. Like, I'm just going to forget what I did the first week and not be able to continue the second week. But nonetheless, my dad pushed us to do it. And from there, me and my mom ended up creating beautiful pieces. That one is a landscape that I did from a reference picture. So I can try to find the picture, and if you wanted to like attach it, it was a reference picture. So it's a landscape. It's pretty much like a mountain, some flowers, some trees as well. I believe it was somewhere in Switzerland, I believe, the reference picture. And what it taught me was that everything is done in layers, and that it doesn't matter if it doesn't necessarily look right the first week or the second week or the third week or the fourth week, but in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I was like, whoa, I could really see this being the picture. And I think there was a bigger kind of lesson from that, in the sense that sometimes we don't really know what we're doing until we do so many other kind of small baby steps to that big thing that we're trying to accomplish. And sometimes the big picture only comes at the end. So it's that, sometimes we start something and we're unsure, or that we have hesitation, or that we're, not confident. But then once we actually kind of throw ourselves into it, and the same thing with being in uncomfortable situations, painting a painting in something that you've never seen and never been to is an uncomfortable situation for sure. We were in a class with a bunch of people we never met before. We didn't know anyone, and we made so many friends. My mom loved it. I loved it. It was an amazing way for me and her to kind of bond over being uncomfortable and being in a weird situation. We were laughing and we were talking. But it ended up being such an amazing learning experience, because I learned how to paint a portrait. So that was my first portrait. And then, I was also able to meet people, and I love meeting people and talking to people. That one right over there, that is like a fluid painting piece where I experimented with fluid materials. So there is oil paintings, there's acrylic paintings, there's also watercolor, and then there's a lot of mediums that you can use. So this was like a viscous medium, to the point where it would make the elasticity, viscosity is like elasticity of the paint, so that you're actually able to pour it on the canvas and then rotate the canvas around to kind of let those paint particles open up. So that kind of gives it the little like stem like features. They're a little bit like small circles. It could be different kind of designs, but it's all dependent on how much you move the canvas and how viscous the paint is. So that was very interesting. That was kind of like an experiment that I did. I wasn't exactly sure about the mediums I was using, and I was like, you know what, I'm scared. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, because obviously you can't see something before it's done. So I poured it on the canvas. I was moving it around. I was playing with it. And then I saw it and I was like, okay, this is it. I'm happy with this. I'm going to leave this, let it dry. And then I loved it. I think it's beautiful. It's like a black, metallic, gold, dark blue, light blue. There's a bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, I love to kind of immerse myself in my own space with my art as well. I'll just kind of move this. I do have a couple other paintings on the other side, and my mom has some in the living room as well. It gives your home such a more home feeling, knowing that you did it. It's not bought, it's original, and it's imperfect. And I think that's the biggest thing about painting, is that, you could see a painting from so far and say, wow, that is stunning. And then maybe go up and be able to say, oh, look, you can see that little stroke, or you can see that little mistake, right? And it teaches you that you don't go up to paintings, right? So close and start nitpicking the artist. Even famous artists or, world-renowned artists, you would never do that. You see it from a distance and you say, wow, that's stunning. And so, that kind of made my perspective on painting be so much more, who cares, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try my best. And however it comes out, I'm going to love it regardless. Whether I hate it or I love it, I'm going to love it at the end of the day. So yeah, that's my painting journey on top of my entrepreneurship. But I've nonetheless loved art always. I took art throughout high school, and I actually wanted to pursue art in my undergrad studies. And then I actually found my love for science. And so that's kind of where my undergrad ended up leading.
Awesome. Thank you so much for opening our eyes into the world of creative arts. Now let's
Mhm,
get into the academics. So
mhm,
what are some courses which you took in your high school, like apart from the painting and language courses, which kind of sparked your interest in choosing the undergraduate program, which you are currently studying?
mhm. So, in grade 10, of course. I won't talk about grade 9 because grade 9, you don't really get any leeway. In grade 10, I did take my basic biology, chemistry, still the introductory courses. And then I did take, obviously, the grade 11 math. When it got, sorry, grade 10 math. When I got to grade 11, I was introduced into the AP program for chemistry. So from there, I was able to kind of be in a space where I was surrounded with very, very intelligent individuals and obviously taught a course at a little bit faster pace. I wouldn't say necessarily that the pace was the biggest factor in general chemistry in grade 11 and advanced placement chemistry. I would more say so that it is the expectation. So I think that the biology and the chemistry being in obviously the university level was that we were focused on doing our labs, let's say an hour and a half period or an hour period. We were doing labs, writing our pre-reports, and then also writing our results and handing that in by the end of the hour. So there was almost no room for error. You weren't really able to not be able to set up the, let's say, the Bunsen burner. You weren't really able to not start the assignment correctly because you wouldn't have time to do the assignment. And I remember in high school so vividly that so many people were like, this is so unfair. Like, I can't work this fast. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Some people would, like I said, mess up the first two steps of the experiment, not be able to do their pre-lab and not be able to do the results. And as harsh as it was a zero. Like it was a zero, or it was kind of like a passing grade. It wasn't a nice grade because you weren't able to fill the expectations. And I remember we were all freaking out that we're like, how is it possible that, the people in the other classes are able to get so much more time and they get more days and they get just longer extensions. And we are forced to do this in such a small amount of time. As I came to go through the course, I learned actually that it wasn't about speed. It was more about anticipating what your results would be. So being that we would have, let's say, the pre-lab in front of us, if you're actually really reading the lab contextually, you should kind of know what's happening at the end, and you should kind of know what's happening in the middle. So by making your inferences, you're actually able to find this kind of medium where it's like, I suspect this, I have an eraser and I can change it, but I actually know that this is supposed to happen. So just by making those quick observations, my team was able to excel so much more in kind of the labs. And then even in biology, the same thing. We were forced to be under such a very time constraint course. Then when I got to university and we had the same thing, I was like, this is beautiful. Like, I'm used to this. I'm used to this type of speed, the expectations, how, we had to write maybe 3 or 4 pages longer than the other kids because that was the standard we were held to in high school. So when we were held to it in university, it wasn't so much of a shock. And that's kind of the biggest disconnect, I think, between high school and university, is that the expectations they have are so much higher that people are just like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. But if you're going to a high school where the expectations are so similar and they set you up for success, the transition is so much smooth. So I did that. And then I also obviously took all the math, science, and the math, science, as in biology and chemistry courses in grade 12, obviously to be able to apply to the university that I did go to. And so I feel like the math and the sciences are super important for all high school graduates that are looking to go into engineering, science, or even research. They're very important and they're almost always a prerequisite. So making sure that you do well in those kind of let's say, calculus courses or pre-university chemistry courses is so crucial to your success in university. And I always tell everyone, please take math until grade 12. You never know what you will do in university. A lot of people opt out, but it is extremely important because it is the stepping stone to so much more, like algebra, pre-calculus, calculus, vectors, physics, everything. So yeah, that's what I did in high school. Pretty much the basic science route in terms of stepping stones.
Awesome. And how was your first year at the university? And also, I'm not sure when like when in your academic journey was when the like pandemic started, and how
Mhm.
did you, shift into that online format?
Yeah, so my journey actually started in grade 12. So I didn't get my prom and I didn't get my graduation. So that was something that was very difficult to go through. And it was very kind of disappointing, less sad, but more just disappointing because you kind of built that all up in high school and you're like, oh, I'm so excited for this one moment. And I didn't even get to walk across the stage, which was the biggest thing that I was like heartbroken about, because all through high school, you're like, I want to get honors and I want to do well and I want to get these awards, and you're not even really accredited with the credit that you deserve for that 4 years that you worked so hard in. So from there, I had my last semester of grade 12 online, and then I started my first semester of first year online. So it wasn't too much of a change because I was used to my last semester of grade 12 online. It was kind of just a little bit faster, but still the same kind of thing. We were all on our computers, we're all in bed, we're all just kind of doing our classes in our pajamas. And I felt that a lot of first years felt the same. We were all just really upset about it. And we kind of bonded about like, how are we doing university on a computer? Like, how is this real? It was a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You had to be there to experience it. And I know it's something that we'll tell our kids years and years and grandkids to come. But the transition for me, I think, wasn't that bad because I had two of my labs in first year in person. So I had my first year chemistry, and then I also had a analytical chemistry. So those really allowed me to kind of go to the school and have that in-person interaction. I was able to make friends in my lab. I was able to make friends in my lecture. I was able to connect to the professor and my TA and even other kind of teaching instructors. So I think for me personally, I did not actually have too bad of an experience because I did get sort of a hybrid. But I found that it did get increasingly more difficult when it was second year, as I feel like the jump from first year to second year is pretty big. And when most of my classes first year, second year, first semester were also online, I thought that it was kind of just dragging on. It was like, we've already done grade 12 online. We've already done first year online. We've already kind of suffered this full year. We've done all our exams in person after learning all online. So, it's hard when you have the materials in front of you and you can have your textbook open. But then when you go to write a final exam, you're just in a room with 300 people, the lights are blaring, and you're just writing a 15-page exam. And so that was a huge shock for us in terms of test taking. I felt that my test and school anxiety was at an all-time high. And I would say the end of first year was really when I realized I have a test taking problem. And that's when I looked towards sports. I looked towards, I did track and field. I looked towards dancing. I looked towards going to the gym and lifting weights. And like I said, from those kind of wellness tips that I took, I was able to overcome my test anxiety. I was able to overcome my fear of the unknown. And I was actually able to go into my second year, second semester, more prepared, more calm, and ultimately more confident, because I knew that, this was kind of something that we all had to go through. Everyone had to be online. It wasn't just me. And I think that understanding that it isn't just you makes you like more grateful for the moment. It's not just you suffering. It's not just me suffering. We're all collectively on our computers. We're all collectively learning from home. And I think that the pandemic really taught me that you need to stay focused regardless of the circumstances, whether it's in person, online, whatever the mode of delivery of learning is. You must be attentive, because at the end of the day, it's your education. And no one's going to help you and no one's going to spoon feed you. And it's really self-directed, and you have to be independent, and you have to have that courage to put your phone down and stay focused and ultimately, listen to your professors online. So I thought that it was a very difficult thing to go through, but I feel like it has made me more prepared to go now on to my third year and fourth year studies for sure.
Awesome. Would you like to give any final advices for high school students and undergraduates?
For sure, for sure. So I say the biggest advice from me would be to be appreciative of what you're learning. I think that oftentimes a lot of us kind of get caught in the study hustle culture. me included, and I'm saying this all from personal experience, where we think that it is healthy to study for 9 hours, wake up, study, don't eat, don't sleep, don't see our friends, don't see our family, and we just study, 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 study just to get that one good mark on a test. And what I would say to that is that marks are important, yes, and good marks are especially important. But during your years of learning, be appreciative that you actually have the opportunity to learn, not even just at a university, but even just at a teaching institution in general, because there are so many people, as we know, but I think that a lot of people forget that there's people in other countries that are actually unable to learn, are unable to write, and unable to read. And we are here learning pre-calculus. We're here learning how to calculate derivatives, and we're here how to learn ethics from philosophers, and we're here learning what it is to be moral and how to have these kind of core values. And so to me, it's just that appreciate learning, sit in your classes and say, you know what, I enjoy this. And even if I don't do well on this next test, that's fine, because half the time there's usually 10 to 20 other assignments or tests left in the year. It's that don't let your grades define you, because besides your grades, you're still a person and you still have so much more to tell for yourself. Ultimately, applying for university, applying for postgrad, applying for PhD, it is your grades, but it's how you carry yourself. And how you carry yourself is based on these kind of take back moments where you say, okay, I'm sitting in this class. I'm not a big fan of this class, but I'm still grateful to be here. I still have a seat in this class. I still can learn. And, I'm a female. And also in so many countries, women are not even allowed to kind of learn to the extent that women do here in Canada or in the US. And that's something that we should really, really take back and say, wow, like I'm sitting in this class. I'm listening to someone who has over 35 years in this field that is teaching me something that I need to grasp. And I don't have to grasp it just to learn it for a test, but I have to grasp it and take a little bit with it and kind of keep it in my heart, right? And I feel like being fortunate, being grateful is the best kind of person to be in academia, because the more open you are to receiving, the more opportunities come. So you really have to be open to meeting new people and being in those uncomfortable situations, talking to those professors, going to those office hours, and really putting yourself out there, because those are how you're going to get those once in a lifetime opportunities of